Ta-da! Good morning and welcome to the Gareth Cliff Show on the Real Network on a Wednesday. Chilly winter morning, but otherwise we're good. I have nothing to moan about this morning yet. We'll find something. I know that's why so many people who come to the show, that's what they're here for. They're here to hear us moan. But we do have lots of other cool shit. And I've got Jack Motlanthe here with me, who is a much less cynical, much more fun person to listen to than I can sometimes be. I've just realized, I am so straightforward with people now that they immediately assume that I'm mean and grumpy. But actually, I'm just saving us all time.
Yeah.
I'm just saving us all time. I'm like, if we're not going to get along, let's find out early.
Yeah. let's save each other's time.
Why should we play games where I lead you down the garden path and you think, oh, this is a friend for life. And then you discover, 2 years into us being friends that I'm a terrible person that you don't want anything to do with. I would rather just tell you in 5 minutes. So I prefer to just let it all hang out.
That's the best way. At least you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
There's nothing more annoying than half-assed conversations.
Oh man,
when you have to fill things with unnecessary.
Oh god, I had one of those the other day. I was talking. Luckily, listen, most of the business conversations I'm having are not about bullshit. Otherwise, they wouldn't. If there's money behind something, you're going to be talking about it. Both parties better care. Otherwise, what are they doing with their money? It was one of those situations where we were at an event. And someone comes up to you and they really want to talk to you, but you really don't want to talk to them. Not because they're a horrible person or anything. You don't have any issue with them. You don't even know them that well.
Yeah.
But they want to ask you serious questions that burn a lot of energy for starters. Serious questions that you need to consider carefully your answer. You want to give them a decent answer because the questions are good. But then you think about it and you're like, I know traffic is coming, right? So I want to make it home before the traffic. So in your head, you're not carrying two different conversations. The first one's with yourself, and you're like, I got to get out of here before 4 p.m.
Yep.
Otherwise I'm going to be in big trouble. But the other part of you is like, that was quite a good question, and I'd like to spend some time answering it. And then invariably the one that wins is the practical one. It's like, you got to get home before that traffic.
Yep.
And that one won. So I hope I wasn't rude, but I just said to her, listen, today's not the day.
Yeah, and at the end of the day,
you're really cool, but today's not your day.
The same way we can identify interesting people to talk to is the same way we can identify dull people. And it's okay to be dull.
Yes, it's fine.
You know what I mean? Just keep the dullness to yourself.
And again, the amount of time I got for that now. Let's just save time.
Yeah,
I drew up a list yesterday. I'll get to that just now. But first things first, we are pretty much we are just underneath 50,000 subscribers on the channel. And for those of you who don't know already, Warris and PH have been running this competition where they're actually going to give someone 50,000 Rand in cash. It could be any one of the people who've liked and subscribed and got involved in the last little while. And if you've been a subscriber and you've liked stuff from the very beginning and you've commented, for example, your chances go up. If you've made a little video, your chances go up. There's a whole bunch of terms and conditions that apply. But they just want to give someone 50 grand in cash. And so they came to us and we said, no, we're not giving you 50 grand in cash. And then they found someone who was kind and philanthropic enough to offer up the 50,000 Rand in cash. So we may be giving that away in the next half hour. Depending, we're going to hit 50,000, and then we just got to decide who it is that we're giving it to. It could take, it could be a spur of the moment decision, or it could be much more methodical. We might go through every one of those 10 to 20,000 people. We don't know. Could be anybody.
Yeah, but I like the idea of showing up with the money in bags.
Yes,
of like 3 bags.
Yeah. So what we're going to do?
Duffel bags. I love that.
Apparently, what they want is to get it in 10 Rand notes, so it really fills up bags. It's going to be irritating for the winner.
Yeah, but
all those 10 Rands. But you know how useful 10 Rands are?
Woo.
You can use them for parking.
They're not worth much these days, but they are useful.
If you got 50 1,000 rand in 10 rand notes. It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
We'll get there. But we've got some serious cash to give away this morning. So that's going to be happening at some point. Got a couple of things on the agenda that are very exciting. And we're going to talk also, I thought this would be an interesting discussion this morning. It's like your favorite meme, the meme that you use all the time on your phone. The one where, it just makes, no matter how good or bad the situation is, it makes you smile. And everyone has their favorite meme, right?
Yeah.
Ben's favorite meme is that cat with the salad in front of it, with the woman like who's shouting. I think it's from Real Housewives.
Yeah.
And then the cat going with a salad. And he loves it so much that a mutual friend of his and mine gave him a cover for his car that has that on the back.
Oh, now that's commitment.
Like for the wheel in the back of his car.
That is proper commitment. Having to jump into the car every time and seeing that. Yeah, that's
very,
dope.
very cool.
Yep.
Okay. By the way, I came up with a brilliant formula for OnlyFans.
That one left very quickly. I'll
tell you what it is. So I thought about this long and hard, and I was like, well, what can I do? Is there a contribution I can make here? And I mostly came up with the answer no. But then I did see this one, and it made me think, I could do that. It would be me dressed like your dad, finally admitting I'm proud of you, and you could pay me $10 for every time I do that.
Oh, okay. You
think that's good?
No, that's good.
I mean, that is
good.
That's what people are really looking for.
That is really good. So
I'll dress up like your dad, and I'll say, son or daughter, I'm really proud of you. It's very time efficient, quick. I mean, that takes all of 10 seconds?
Yeah.
I might dress up. The dressing up could be a little bit complicated because I don't know it's your dad. You'd have to send me a pic or two of him, but I could act this out beautifully. And I think it would solve so many.
It would actually.
Of the people in the world's problems. Because if dads had just said, I'm proud of you, we'd have so much less shit.
And it would actually stop them from their marketing ploys. Like you'll be on X. And see something completely unrelated. And when you go into the comment section, all of a sudden, there's this half-naked human being.
Yeah.
My OnlyFans is free for the month. We don't care. We don't care.
Well, some people do. That's how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Got to be respectful of the fact that there are people who are making it work for them. Whatever you do, it's the oldest profession in the world.
I'm just saying.
Not going to change it, you and me.
It's going to screw up you. It's going to screw up the people that watch you. Like this, it's not a good idea at all. A few months ago, we had a chat with Mpho Dagara, and he let us know that these telecommunications company make profit because of porn.
Of course they do.
OnlyFans and whatnot. So it's like I'm of the mind that maybe we should just switch it off. By the way,
I see we are dressed matchy today. I've got the black and
the green, yeah.
And this green is not like it's not the kind that'll get me into trouble on the screen.
Yes, thank God.
There it is. There's the green. But I see we're both dressed like MK veterans, especially to celebrate the swearing in of MK's amazing members of parliament. People like John Hlophe, the disgraced former judge, Duduzile, Tom Moyane, all these people who've really put their back into making South Africa great.
What would we be without those struggle veterans and
I see
parliamentarians? What would we do?
No, we'd be struggling.
We'd just fall apart.
I saw, we were talking about Ronaldo Gous last week, and that whole thing has turned into such a shit show. And then the DA suspended him, and now he's trying to raise money on his GoFundMe. Now they won't they won't let him use that.
Yeah.
And then you see, this is a never-ending. If we're going to go into everyone's past and find the one terrible thing they said or did, and everybody has one, none of you, none of us, nobody on planet Earth is proud of every single thing they've ever done, right? So if we're going to go and dig around, like I see they're doing with Andile Mngxitama, they're looking for, they don't have to look very hard because that guy says a vicious and disgusting thing every other day.
Yeah, and he's such a snake oil salesman, that guy.
And I see
all of the things that he says in comparison to the things that he does,
Oh,
are like
please. He's just
it's a world
he's
apart.
just such a loser. I mean, talks such a big game. Talk about bark bigger than bite. But anyway, I mean, I don't want to go into this because I don't really care about him. But the reality is, like, this is a zero-sum game. If we're going to go all out to destroy each other on planet Earth, if humans are going to turn on each other and see the very worst in each other and find those terrible examples and use those to characterize someone for the rest of their lives, then kids have got no chance. Then every kid in the world should just give up right now.
Yep.
And forget about ever having a future, because there's already too much. And unless you are a newborn and your parents keep you off the internet until you're 18, and then you keep yourself off from 18 to 35 until your brain is maybe not so soft. And who knows, some people it takes longer, like me. Some people it takes shorter. But then we're all screwed. So this is a destructive no-win if we're going to play this game. Everyone will lose. And it's not a way to go. So I'm watching it happen, and I'm just like, I'm despairing about what it means, because it's just so
A friend
dumb.
of mine last week after the show laid into me. It was like, dude, you're defending Ronaldo house. Whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not defending him. And mind you, it's weird, right? So on Wednesday last week, we were reacting to the first video that came out, which wasn't actually that bad. And then later on that day, that's when the effing K word and effing N word showed up. And I was pointing out to him, look, there's a whole lot of things happening politically in this country. This is a sideshow.
Of course it is.
You're being distracted from the things that we actually need to be talking about.
Of course it is. I don't even think it's worth discussing the merits of this one case or of Andile's case, frankly. This is all just very, very dirty. And it's dirty, and it's being perpetuated by people who are trying to keep you from paying attention to the important stuff. So I'm totally with Jack. And I don't care if you don't like me for it. You don't have to like me. That's not what this game is about.
No, it's not.
And we'll be fine. Jack and I will manage just fine if somebody who's listening to this is outraged and incensed. Can't go to sleep tonight. We'll still have a nice time. So please don't worry about us.
If you're that pissed off, get a life.
Hawk tour.
Yeah, get a life. There are more serious things to worry about, truthfully.
All right. Somebody says here they've got an OnlyFans, but they use it for, hang on, where is this comment? There's some very funny stuff here. People are alive in the comment section. If you haven't joined, I mean, 3/4 of the fun of the show actually happens there. It's got nothing to do with what we're doing on screen. There are a couple of people here. Do my chances for winning the money go up if I harass Ben on Instagram? No, they won't. My comments are quite rude, says Carl De Santos. That 50,000 is not coming to me. Probably not. I don't know.
I don't know. Carl seems like someone who's got his shit together. Like, you seem like you've got the money. You're fine.
Was there not a TV show where a woman said her cat was a vegetarian and they tested it by offering it meat or veg? The cat obviously chose the meat. Yeah, obviously. By the way, this week I'm only eating meat. I just decided I'd try this for a week, see how I feel, see what it does for my energy levels and all the rest of it. I'm not solving a problem that isn't there. I just want to try. So I'll report back if anyone's interested, but not any like long, complicated scientific report. I'll say, yes, I felt better, or no, it made no difference. Or no, I don't feel better, or it made no difference.
But like, what exactly are you eating? Just meat?
Just
like nothing else?
Yum.
Yeah.
Like Monday, I had just steak. Yesterday, I had just lamb. I had some like veggies. That counts, but no carbs.
For the most part, it's just meat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's at the center of everything. I'm not a zealot, so I'm not going to go completely, but I'll see if it makes any difference. I'll give you the honest truth. There we go. What can I do? All right. How will you avoid blackface drama with the dad thing if you pretend to be my dad, says Fire Monkey. Yeah, I don't mind about that. I mean, if Justin Trudeau could get away with the blackface thing, then so can I.
And there's all types of filters that you can use. You can get a filter of a nice-looking black man and just do the damn thing.
Yeah. I could look like Denzel.
Yeah.
And in fact,
is that what you want to do? You want to do OnlyFans? Is that what you want to do?
yeah, actually, I'll feel morally. I will feel very morally compromised if I'm using Denzel Washington to do OnlyFans. That would be rough.
Look at me. Listen here. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Put the phone down. Put your panties on.
All right. So there are a couple of things that are in the news. Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, they eventually parted ways.
Bromance.
Vlad waved at him through the window of the plane. They traded gifts. It was all very romantic.
Do you know what it actually reminds me of? There was this amazing ad by Nando's way back when. I think who had passed on? I think it was Robert Mugabe, if I'm not wrong. And he was playing on a swing set, and then all the other dictators showed up. You know what I mean?
It wasn't after he died. It was while he was still alive.
Who had passed? One of the dictators had passed on.
It was a lovely commercial.
Oh, man. When I saw those videos of Vlad and Kim, I was like, guys, those were the days, my friend.
Well, it's happening right now.
It is.
Anyone who's feeling nostalgic about the days of dictatorship and authoritarianism and totalitarianism, there's two guys who are just living their truth.
They are they're living their best life, those two. Did you see the video of them driving around in that Rolls Royce?
All I thought was, Jesus, can you imagine being in the traffic and that comes up behind you?
Hey, man.
You know, you're going, you think, okay, I'm following the rules, and you see them behind you. You're like, it doesn't matter what rules there are. I'm in trouble now.
Oh, Bitcoin bot. There you go. It was Saddam Hussein who had just been hanged.
Saddam had been hanged. Yeah, shame, poor Saddam.
Hey, man, Saddam. Oh, but you know what? That ad lives rent-free in my mind. It was one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen in my life. And when I saw those two walking together, driving around in there, that's all I heard. Those were the days, my friend.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
I like that. Little nostalgia for your Wednesday morning. All right. So apparently there's a church in Mexico that is selling plots of land in heaven. So you can buy a property in heaven. No, seriously. People are doing it. Because people are stupid. So they're selling it for $100 a square meter. So I'm not going to do what you think I'm going to do and just like pile on to gullible people who would fall for this shit. I'm going to say that this is a great way for a church to pay for its stuff. And maybe the pastor's as crooked as all hell. I don't know. But he's selling plots in heaven. Now, what you really want to do, if you're smart, is say to people you've bought them a plot in hell. Wouldn't that be funny?
It would.
You say to someone, so you know how you say to people, go to hell.
Yeah,
you're really angry with them. Now you could say to them, I bought you a plot in hell. You could show them the title deed. And you know what the funny thing is? Like the sad thing is that most people, that'll be the only property they ever have. In hell or in heaven.
Yep.
So you know what? It's
just,
talk about deferred happiness or deferred sadness. Shame.
Yeah. Like these religion has taken quite the pounding in the past 2 decades.
Well, I'm just thinking that this would be a great way if I had to buy all these people who talk about their land, like in the EFF.
Yeah.
We demand the land. So what I'll do is I'll go and buy a couple of plots in hell and I'll say, here's some land. You wanted land? I got you something. Here we are, sweetheart. Got you something.
And it's yours in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Like, it's yours forever.
It's only as stupid. And we got to criticize, if you're going to go hard on the religious people, it's only as stupid as buying property in the metaverse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just as dumb.
It is.
Okay. If you bought yourself a country in the metaverse and you ran around, 4 years ago telling people, I bought a piece of the metaverse.
Yeah.
What's that worth now?
Good luck.
How's that going for you? Have you built your house there yet? Is it a nice house? Can you keep warm in it in the winter?
Oh, man.
How's the metaverse turned out for you, huh? Shim.
That's like, people continuously show us that there's new levels of stupidity.
Yes. And if you could profit from that stupidity, you may be a bad person, but you're clever.
Yeah.
You know,
More power to you.
Nobody ever said clever and good have to go together.
No.
Clever and bad can go together too. So you got to be, you don't have to be ruthless to make money, but if you are,
it helps. Seriously, it helps. Because you're going to get into a meeting and someone's going to hit you with some sob story. If you've got feelings, you'll buckle. But if you're ruthless, you'll tell them the truth. Listen here, we're not about to do that. We are not.
If you want land in hell, says Carl, you need to get an evil deed for that land. Yes, you would. You remember, did you ever read Dante's Inferno?
No.
John Milton?
I watched the movie.
Oh, you did? Okay. So in Dante's Inferno, he describes the 9 different circles of hell and what you do to get into all those different circles of hell. Like how evil and wretched you have to be.
Yeah.
So I wonder what I'd have to do in order to get to those lowest circles of hell. I'm going to go and read up again. Check. I think the lowest one was treachery.
Yeah.
If you're a traitor.
Yeah.
Traitors get the lowest.
I haven't watched that movie in quite some time. Yeah, I must think about it.
It's worth taking a look at again.
Yeah. And I think if we're going to use Dante's Inferno as a yardstick, I would imagine a lot of people in this country would have already been there.
Oh, yes, definitely. Helen asks a very good question on this issue of like a church in Mexico selling plots of land in heaven. She says, are the Dettol and Doom prophets still around? Remember that there was the Dettol pastor, and then there was the Doom pastor.
Then there was the one who made people eat grass.
Yeah. There was the one who like inappropriately fondled the women in his church, promising them that would get them into heaven.
Yeah. But I mean, they're always trying this stuff. And I think the one thing that has, I won't say annoyed me, but I find it a little weird. Yeah. Like there's these churches that pop up on the side of the road. Like,
yeah, I know which ones you mean.
People in the open felt.
Yeah, the fly-by nights.
You're like, what are you guys doing? Wouldn't Jesus tell you to just build a building instead of being outside
it's
in the
short
elements?
notice, man.
No.
It's like, guys, I need a church.
No,
but we don't have time. Just
go there.
Side of the road is fine.
That patch of grass looks fine.
All right, so I've come up with a couple of things that I want to get to in a short while around my list of stuff that I've decided to avoid online. I think it'll be fun. But we'll get to that just now. Have you seen, James, have you by any chance got that Justin Timberlake mugshot on AI?
Ooh, Justin.
Okay, you've got to see this. This is hilarious. So remember, he was arrested last week for driving under the influence.
Yeah.
Very embarrassing. By the way, the cop who arrested him has apparently got a reputation for being a real stickler. Like he arrests everybody. It's in the East Hamptons, so it's a really rich part of New York.
I love that guy, by the way.
Yeah, I think it is disgusting that they're basically doxing this guy online because he did what a cop's meant to do. I mean, he's meant to not care about how rich or famous you are. If you break the law, you get arrested.
And it turns out he's young enough to actually not be impressed by Justin Timberlake. He didn't know who Justin was.
Yeah, I love that.
At all.
I think that's great.
That was amazing.
Good for him. Anyway, here is what they've done using a little AI with Justin Timberlake's mugshot. And I mean, this just shows you never know what's true on the internet anymore. Take a look at this. Doesn't it look real?
That
so
looks
he's
so
actually
real.
In the mugshot downing it's either a beer or something a bit stronger. I mean, considering what they found in his
there was a lot in his system. And apparently this man's supposed to be going on a world tour. It's like, priorities, my guy. Priorities.
Well, apparently that's what he said to the cop. He's like, oh, this is going to really get in the way of my tour. And the cop was like, what tour?
What?
Yeah, who are you?
Who the hell are you?
Speaking of world tours, this was going around yesterday too about these 2 people who decided to cycle through really dangerous countries to prove that people are kind.
Okay.
I think this is funny. It's re-emerged after a couple of years. Roses are red, sandwiches grilled, millennial couple bikes through ISIS territory to prove humans are kind and gets killed.
Yeah, there you go. I felt that one coming.
It's not my favorite rhyme, but it works.
It works.
You know?
It works. It's like, being swimming against the grain is great when your life is not
on the line.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the dumbest things. And I'm not saying that I'm happy these two people have died, but I'm like, what did you expect exactly?
Yeah, no.
What were you looking for?
I'm totally with you. We were talking earlier about favorite memes. So I have one. I just find endless uses for this one. Every time anything goes wrong, this is my favorite meme. It's the dog sitting in the kitchen that's on fire.
Yeah.
And the dog goes, "This is fine." This one. I just love that. I've actually ordered, because there's another friend of mine and she also loves this meme. It's her favorite. So I've ordered her a canvas, beautifully printed thing that she could put up in her house. Yeah. Of this meme. It's my favorite meme. It's just everything's falling apart. The whole place is on fire.
It's like, no, I'm fine,
this
right
is
here.
fine. And it's got a little hat on. It's just great.
The most unbothered person on earth.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite at the moment, but then it does change from time to time.
It does.
I mean, there's so many good ones that this is what the internet is for.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, the internet is there for us to share memes, and I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I love it. Keep bringing it on.
My favorite one is whenever I drop some knowledge on someone, like whenever you have a mic drop moment.
Oh yeah,
this is the one I send. James, you got me? Because some people don't get the picture unless you send it to them. Like you have to baby step them to
like
the
James,
revelation.
for example, when you send him the picture and he still doesn't get it.
You know what I mean? And I sent this thing last night. Huh? Last night.
It's all right. It's very good. That's why we hire the best people here.
Yes.
I do want to say quickly, and we'll get back to the memes in a second, but I think Argentina are just shooting the lights out at the moment because they've got a president who actually understands economics.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal what can happen. And remember, he was only elected a short while ago.
Yep.
This should be a really good argument for whatever our government ends up being. Just making sensible decisions, just following sound economic policy, because the people in that country, for the first time in 30 years, Argentina has logged its first week without food inflation.
0.
Now, don't tell me, even if you are a rabid, idealist who believes in a particular party and you love what they do and what they say, don't tell me that you wouldn't like to pay less for food, for fuel, for transport. Because if you do, then you're an idiot, I'm afraid. Because then you don't even know how to argue for your position. You don't even know what is in your own interests. Then you are like a toddler and you shouldn't really be allowed to vote in the first place. But I see Javier Milei he's killing it at the moment. The budget deficit has been reversed. They are on their way to a surplus, which means that the government of that country has more money to spend, and they've lowered taxes.
Listen to this.
And they've turned around every aspect of the economy that everybody wants and believes is a sheer indicator of success. They're all in the positive. And this within a couple of months. The guy is a wizard. But it just shows you how useless everyone else in the world is. And
do you know what I am taking away? Like, South America seems to be, as a whole, steadily moving in the right direction. And at the root of it all is just genuine leadership. That's it.
Some parts of South America. There's some kind of Brazil can't make its mind up about whether it wants to be a country or a gangster's paradise, but
I'm just saying, that region of the world is kind of making a turn towards the right direction.
Hey, James, you find after 3/4 of an hour, have you managed to find Jack's favorite meme?
There we go.
This one. Is that your favorite meme, really?
Seriously. Like, if I drop some knowledge on you.
Let that sink in, and there's a sink in the door waiting to be let into the house.
There you go.
That is the cheesiest. Come on, that doesn't compare with my dog.
No, the thing is, I hadn't dropped anything on you. If I would have dropped some knowledge on you right now and I pop that up, following it up, listen.
I don't know.
We are cooking.
My favorite meme, says Congo Chris, is "It's Wednesday, my dudes." The frog, I've seen that one.
No, I haven't seen that
my
one.
favorite meme changes over time, says Naked Goose. I had a folder with memes of Leo DiCaprio doing a silly walk. In every picture, someone else is in the background, like sad Hitler or something. I like that Leo DiCaprio one where that's the one. Yes. That's very good.
Mhm.
And also the one with the champagne glass.
Yeah.
That's always useful too.
Yep.
I love that. Many uses for those. G used to play a voice of a Chinese lady saying, vagina pussy. I love that. Well, Elon, you know what? I'll see if I can dig that out for you. Vagina pussy. You never heard that? I'll find it for you. It's very important that we do these things.
Yes, it is.
Earth has 2 fewer stupid people. Shame. Those 2 cyclists.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Shame.
hallelujah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they bought a plot of land in heaven.
In heaven.
So
They might have from
Guys,
the
they are
Mexicans.
okay. They made the provisions. They started making bond payments 2 years before they went on that trip. It's fine. They're okay. They'll be fine.
That's right. Apparently, Milei made all currencies in Argentina legal, even Bitcoin. So that's also helped too. Listen, the guy's he's like common sense. I don't think he is even that interested in ideology.
No.
He's just like the guy who's saying, first of all, you should get to keep the money you make, most of it.
Yeah.
You should get to trade at a competitive rate with other countries and other individuals across the world. The government should have less to do with running the economy. And as he's pulling the government out of the economy, guess what's happening? It's booming. So amazing, so simple. Again, it's not that he's brilliant. It's that every other politician in the world is dumb. Get rid of them. Let's see what happens. Anyway, we've got some decisions to make in that respect in this country. But we've got to also talk window seat this morning, which is very exciting. I absolutely love this. We get to talk about travel and all kinds of other interesting things this morning. We're speaking to someone who is with Avis. She's the general marketing manager at Avis South Africa. And we're going to talk about this because I want to know all about the changes that have been going on in the world of car rental. And I think that that's a fascinating area. And Avis is the biggest. Aren't you guys the biggest? I think you're the big. Yeah, you are. She shouts from the sidelines. Yeah, we are. Yes, I knew it. So Anda Peter's here with us. Anda, it's nice to have you here. She is a marketing professional, over 14 years experience in marketing, communications, brand management, and she's gained experience in all areas of marketing with keen interest and passion for building brands. And has had strategic roles across various industries, spanning from financial services, media, and FCMG, results-driven, self-motivated, decisive, and excellent leader, the kind that we need more of in this country. So it's great to have you here and to talk about Avis. So nice to see you. Yeah, very, very cool.
Morning, gents. How are you?
Good. Thanks for waking up early to be with us.
I always wake up early, so
suppose some of us have to.
Yeah.
You know, it's good that you are with the red company, because if you're with the green company, you just melt into the background.
Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do?
No,
we
don't
only
have
see
to
your
ask
head
you
floating.
to change the color.
No, we don't have to worry because you're with the red one. So, all right,
Awesome.
everybody knows the name Avis, and I'd be interested in just hearing from you very briefly, because we like to have a little context for these things, little history of Avis and how the car rental industry's changed in South Africa too, because everything has moved so fast that nothing is what it was 20 years ago. How long have you been with them?
I've been up. Firstly, morning to the listeners.
Go on.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
I've been with Avis for 14 months.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, but 14 years in marketing, so
Over 14 years of marketing.
okay, so tell me what's been happening at Avis.
So Avis, it's is a strong brand. We all know in the car rental business, we are number one.
Yes.
We were established in 1967.
Sure.
Wow.
Okay, so it's a lot of history
South
there.
Africa, yes, that's a very rich brand history. And we started with having cars from the airport into whatever location that you want to rent the car from.
Right.
So we've been operating all these years.
Ahead of your time, long before Uber or
yes,
those things.
yes. And it's been challenging years, especially after COVID. The travel industry, we all felt the pain, but there were learnings out of that, and we still doing well as a business.
Obviously, you guys are still ahead of the curve, because I see you've just recently launched a reservation WhatsApp bot. So when people place a reservation, you don't actually need someone sitting there on the phone like it's 1983. You can do this and the bot will make the reservation for you, or you book where, when, what time, They give you the price, all that kind of thing, and it's all sorted. And you get there for the car the next day, wherever you're going to go,
Yes,
and it's ready for you.
that's it. So
Fantastic.
we have to go past 1967.
Yeah, no, this is very 2024 because we talk about AI all the time, and in some businesses, I'm still skeptical that it can be really useful. This is an example in your business of where it really is.
Mhm.
So we actually launched it in April, towards end of April.
Okay.
So looking at the stats the other day, we've increased by people who booked through, we've increased by 87%.
What does that mean? People don't want to talk to people.
Yeah, they don't.
There are people like that, but I'm still very want to talk to people.
Yeah.
No, listen, I appreciate you being able to talk to people and liking it, because otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yep.
I would
But
not like to have this conversation with a bot.
I suspect it's a generational thing. Like the older you are, you prefer speaking to people on the phone. The younger you are,
What are you
you'd
trying to
rather
say about
text.
me and
So
Anda?
now
huh?
what are
Yeah.
you trying to say
No,
about my
I'm
age?
okay. I'm literally caught in between the two of you. I'm just
Hey,
saying.
respect your elders.
Yes. Sorry, Bob. But like, truthfully though, older people just prefer
Yeah,
to speak over the phone,
I think
whereas
you're
younger
right.
people want to text. And I
Yes.
think it's a good idea to use both.
Yeah, because there's a market
Mhm.
for that still wants to speak to someone, and there's a market that wants to do everything on their phone. So we had to follow the trends. Everything now happens on our phones.
Just
So, and we're
sorry, what
seeing numbers
percentage
increasing.
increase?
So we're saying the number of people we launched in towards the
April.
end of April. So looking at May, we have achieved like 82% people booking
Amazing.
using bots.
Okay, so they like
And
it.
then month on month, there's an increase because
Superb.
more other people still not aware. So we're still trying to educate the market and make them aware that we have this wonderful service. You just use your phone. Convenience.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
you
great.
see. And also, I think for a lot of people, it's not just the generational thing. I think you're right. But it's also that you see it there in writing. So it's not like you have to remember, did she say it would be ready at 9 or at 9:30? Like you can go and check.
Yeah.
Because people are also busy and there's so much going on now. And we use our phones for everything. And if it isn't on here, we're not going to remember. And you can go back and you can now look, oh, okay, good. It's 9, not 9:30.
Yeah.
Because if you get there then and your car's not there, you're going to go, oh, it's your fault. But actually, you can see it's like there's a conversation.
So now, even when it comes to comments or complaints or anything like that, can you still log those things on the phone?
Yes, you can still log on the phone.
It's pretty great.
Yes.
What is Avis Safe Drive?
So Safe Drive is when we call it one of our ancillary products. So you get an option to take that, but most people take it anyway. So the Safe Drive it gives you road assistance at if you get stuck or an emergency.
Flat wheel.
Yes. So you just press on the button and then it will alert the region where you picked up the car that probably in an emergency. So as Avis, so we had that because we believe that people are more important than cars. So that's one of the things that makes us stand out. So we introduced the Safe Drive. So it's just a panic button and then we'll be able to assist you.
I think that's excellent, especially for women who are driving on their own. You know, you don't want to have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
Be stranded on the side of the road. I mean, anybody, but especially it would worry me if like my sister or my mom or somebody else was stuck in that way and I wasn't in the province to come and help. You know, there's someone who will come and help them. That's
And
very
we're in partnership with Discovery.
helpful. Oh, very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like these partnerships. So here's an interesting comment. Slippery Pickle says, I find that Avis cars always skip over the potholes much more gracefully than any of the other cars.
Is it because of our partnership as well with Discovery Patrol?
Maybe,
Yeah, it
maybe
could
it
be.
is. Take the credit. That's your win. All right. Can you give us some idea of the additional services that you guys offer, which I think many of us are not aware of? I think many people also, if they don't have to hire a car these days, they don't, because if it's short distances or whatever, it just doesn't make as much sense. But there's a lot of business out there, and you guys are obviously getting the lion's share of it. So what other services do you offer that maybe are the reasons that people prefer you to everyone else?
Okay. So Avis, when you speak Avis, the brand, what comes to mind is car rental. But we are more than that. We're actually positioning ourselves now as a mobility service provider. And we not only offer cars, So we also, if you want to buy a second-hand car, we have that service.
Ah,
And if you are in a business, we also have fleet business. So we have a full-on mobility, whether you are a consumer or B2B, where you can lease vehicles from us. And if you want to buy a car, and our cars are, it comes from a trusted brand, we've got that full credit history of the car,
right.
and you can buy the car. But also in the car rental, there's so much more things that we offer. We're not only offering you just a normal car, we have our Lux range. We also offer, talking back to full mobility solutions. If you don't want, like me, I don't really like driving. You want someone to drive for you, we have Avis Chauffeur Drive. And for, if also in business, you want to rent bakkies, we have Avis van rental business. And we also have, I was actually looking at Edna now that she has arrived in Cape Town. We tried to reach out. So we have Avis Safari as well. So it's a full on, like we were at the MTN bushfire in Swaziland about, was it a month ago? In May. And most people were like, wow, we didn't know that you can get this. So it's a full on van, open it up.
Nice.
Can cook your food, comfortable bedding.
Wow.
Yep.
Sure.
I'll give you one to try it out. Do you like camping?
Okay,
camping.
I don't like it, but I tried it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the camping's amazing. Have you seen nature? Come on.
Oh, come on, but that
Come on.
the
Come
tents
on.
and the no.
Listen.
This sounds like the way to do it in style. Sean says in the comments, I love the free upgrades. I just got an upgrade last week, Tuesday at Cape Town Airport.
Love it. I hope Sean is a preferred. If he's not, he must sign up.
There we go.
We have our loyalty program.
How does that work?
So you just sign up for free. You don't have to qualify to get certain points to it's free. But then you need to keep up to move to the next tier, which is Avis Preferred.
Very good.
And then you move to PC. And the more you are on the upper tier, the more you get more benefits like free upgrades, the additional driver, you don't have to pay for it. And so much more benefits with our loyalty program. Here's
an interesting question from Jethro. And I'm putting you on the spot here because if you don't know these answers, it's not your fault. You don't know what people are going to ask. But Jethro says, why are vehicle rental companies reluctant to have a motorcycle fleet? Those that do charge an absolute fortune. I hadn't thought about that at all. People who prefer motorbike, do you guys do that?
Can you ask him if it's in our latest strategy? Because that's our plan.
Oh,
that's
wow.
Yes.
Maybe he knows something we don't.
Yeah.
So we want to try motorbikes, but also, in Cape Town, we want to use Cape Town as to start the pilot to have bicycles. And in Cape Town during summer, it's difficult to move around Camps Bay.
Motorcycles, scooters.
Bikes, scooters. So that's the direction.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy might have his finger on the pulse more than anyone else in the comment section this morning. And then somebody says here, are you doing self-driving cars in the future, maybe?
Self-driving cars in the future? Okay.
I mean, it could be a thing. They're trying it in America still, but I think it's a long way off. And I'm worried not about the self-driving cars. I'm worried about the other people on the road. Because your car might know what to do, but it doesn't know what the other guy
next to you is doing.
Yeah, exactly. No, very good. Tell me, just out of interest, when you guys are doing the stuff that you do with rental cars, are people mostly good about looking after the cars? Because they do those pre-inspections and post-inspections. So they're going to see if you've scratched the wheel or whatever. Are people mostly quite conscientious, well-behaved, they hand back the car in good condition? Or are they not? Because you know how people say you drive it like a rental.
No, I must say, if you look at I don't have the actual numbers of damages, but you do kind of people do take care of the cars.
That's good.
Good condition, but you will find
a bump.
It's some damages.
Yeah, there's always one idiot, right? Always.
Sometimes more than one.
Yeah.
Richard says, please do the scooters like they have in Europe. It's a reason I look forward to going there. That's great. So more and more people are climbing onto this. I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
Driving mobility.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, it's very nice to meet you, Anda. And I don't think we've ever had Avis on the show. So it's nice to talk about this. The window seats where we get to talk about all the aspects of travel. And for many people, it's not just about going overseas and having to find a car and having your international driver's license, which you have to have, and then you drive on the other side of the road.
Get confused.
And listen, I've done that in America once, but it's also just for when you're doing local stuff. And sometimes, like you said, camping, maybe you need to go away and there are 3 or 4 of you, you can't fit in one car. You hire a car.
That's it.
There we go. Go to Avis. It sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
Very nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to see us.
Yeah.
Anda Peter is the general manager for marketing at Avis in Southern Africa. So you do the whole of Southern Africa,
Yes.
not just South Africa.
Not just South Africa. We have other
Okay.
markets
Very
as well.
good.
That's
Very nice to
amazing.
see you. Thank you,
Awesome.
Anda.
Thank you.
Good to have you
a
here.
wonderful day.
You too.
And you.
Thank
Isn't that
you.
fun?
Cheers.
That's the way to start your morning.
Mhm.
Now you know a little bit. I knew a little bit more. I didn't know half that stuff.
Same here.
I hadn't even thought about the motorbikes and the scooters and things. It's such a good point.
Yeah, it never crossed my mind. And the number of people that ride around on those things is, I think, from my point of view, it's steadily increasing.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Mhm.
Got some interesting things to talk about after 7:30 this morning. We're going to speak to someone called Veli Ndaba, who was born in Soweto. He is a very interesting guy. He does neuro-linguistic programming and life coaching, and he does them together. He also works in engineering, and he applies all his tools to help transform leadership in South Africa. Now, it sounds very complicated, but he promises he'll be able to explain it to us. And he says that the unhealthy habits of leaders contribute to their poor performance. So what unhealthy habits do you have that we may be able to identify with Veli a little bit later on? I think this could be fascinating. We're going to speak to him. And I've got a couple of other things to get to too. But first, I want you to see this. This is a woman in California who's just woken up to the fact that she's been an idiot for, I mean, there's no other way to say it. She's on a talk show.
Yeah.
And she's talking to this other lady, and she suddenly realizes, like, I am a fool. You can watch it and you'll see for yourself what I mean by this. Take a look here. James is going to play us a little clip of her. I don't know this woman. I know she may be famous. Maybe she's not. But she talks about how she thought that all these great liberal ideas that she's had would be the right life decisions for her. Now she's looking around her in California, and she's seeing that the result of all those decisions that she's made, and so many others in California have actually made her and other people's lives much worse. You kind of have to ask yourself, how bad do things have to get before people realize they're the problem? So here she is. Take a look.
I grew up here. I'm a woman. I'm a gay woman. My mom's a Jew. My dad's an Arab. I have a black kid. And believe it or not, my son is half Latin, even though he doesn't look like it. When you have me running from home, maybe it's gone way too far. What was the line? I actually take this line from Bill and Elon Musk, and they're like, I actually haven't changed. Yes. The world around me is shifting, and I haven't moved. So some of these laws that are passing here are absolutely fucking mind-boggling. Like, we're decriminalizing everything, which arguably I would probably be okay with, but we're not regulating any of it. Right. So it's like, okay, you're going to decriminalize sex work, but only so women can legally loiter on the streets. Like, not to keep them safe, not to have them pay taxes, not to make them, regularly check for STDs, not to take away the pimps out of the equation. But when it's like, oh, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pass a law for LGBTQ rights so that 24-year-old men can sleep with 14-year-old boys and not have to register as a sex offender because it's just not fair to the gays. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I'm sorry that you got what you asked for. I love the way she starts that clip, though. She starts off by going, I grew up here. I'm gay. My my mother's a Jew. My father's an Arab. She lists all of her identity categories, which, I mean, for a liberal white woman in America, that's her CV.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter whether there's nothing going on in her head or not. And clearly, this is a very stupid person. But as long as she can say she has a son who's half Latin and half whatever, she's in a relationship with whatever it was. She went through all the categories. And I was like, this is exactly the problem.
That
She's so
is.
obsessed with that stuff
Mhm.
that she's never thought about. And there's this abundance of compassion, but it's fake compassion. She's like, she wants people to think she's a nice person. That's why she lists all of that stuff in the beginning too. She wants people to go, oh, she's such a great person. Meanwhile, everything that she and other liberals in California have been begging for has now come to them, and it's turned their entire state to shit.
Yeah.
And they can't seem to understand why. Bad things happen because you deserve them.
And you kind of set them up yourself, truth be told. Not even kind of. You set them up yourself. Like with politicians, you give them a centimeter, they'll take a kilometer.
Correct.
So what ultimately happens is, if you are feeding into all of this identity bullshit, you are giving them license to go crazy. And guess what? They've gone crazy.
Yeah. And you can't then moan and say, oh, well, what's happened to my home? She goes,
Well,
oh, it's my home. And the other one goes, your home. Like, here we are both being compassionate with each other because we're both ridiculously stupid.
yeah,
Anyway,
and
talking about getting what you deserve, here's a woman, and you'll need to look at her. So if you're not watching us on YouTube, I'll try to describe her afterwards. This is a woman who's basically, she's got a lot of tattoos and piercings.
okay.
And she can't understand why she applied for a job and they won't give it to her. So just take a look at this. There's also a second woman in the clip afterwards who I completely agree with. Surprise, surprise. But let's see what you feel about this. Here we go. Because people are very touchy about tattoos.
Job
for some
at
reason.
TJ Maxx a few weeks ago, and they denied my application. They couldn't even call me. They just sent me some automated email. So I went in today and I was like, so what was the reason I didn't get hired? And she was like, oh, like you just like don't have enough experience. There was candidates that had like more experience than you. And, I asked her if it was about my tattoos, obviously, because I know a lot of places don't like tattoos. She said that wasn't the reason. I don't feel like that's true.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you want to tattoo the mess out of your face, be my guest. There is no law against inking your neck with demon symbols or scrawling all kinds of occult imagery across your forehead, just like there's no law against putting 40 studs through your cheeks and your lips, or dyeing your eyeballs green. If you're a dude who wants to strut around in fishnet stockings, or if you're a woman who wants to dress up like a cat and meow at everybody, that's not illegal. Supremely stupid, but not illegal. But please, for the love of all that is holy, stop demanding that the rest of us accommodate your insanity. You did what you did to be different. Congratulations, mission accomplished. So if TJ Maxx doesn't want you to be the face of their store for their customers, maybe go see if the circus has any openings.
Hey, maybe go and see if the circus doesn't have any openings.
Yeah.
Again, you know what? I don't have any strong feelings about tattoos. We've discussed this on the show before. I don't have any. I don't mind if you do. I think that there are tasteful ways to do it. Some people, it's very sexy. Some people, it's neither here nor there. Frankly, if you were ugly before the tattoos, you're probably ugly after them.
Yep.
If you were really, really hot, then the tattoos might make you a little bit hotter. But if you think that putting like the devil and demons all over your throat and studs all over your face, that's going to make people just rush to employ you, good luck.
Yeah, like, what did you expect exactly? And I love the fact that the second woman pointed out, you wanted to be different. Well done.
Yeah.
You're different.
You're so different
Now suffer the consequences of being different.
Right.
Like, and look, I've got tattoos. I got them in specific
prison.
places.
No, I'm kidding.
I wish I was that gangster.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But yeah, I got them in very strategic places because naturally I don't want to minimize my opportunities and all of that stuff. But I am a creative. I'm an artist. So I'm not too concerned about trying to get an office job and wearing a tie and whatnot. So I've got a bit of room to mess around. But if I'm going to put anything on my face, tattoo-wise, I should understand that some people are going to look at me weird. Like,
and there's no way
it comes with the territory.
There's no way to like tamp that down, right?
No.
I mean, you can, if you've got a tattoo on your wrist or you've got something on your arm or you've got something on your leg or whatever, and you occasionally have to wear a suit, no one's going to see that stuff. And it's not like you're hiding your true self because your personality can still come through.
Yep.
But I just wonder about so many people who are relying on things other than their personality to stand in for their personality. And of course, this is not true for anyone who has a tattoo. What it is true for is someone like that who's only got tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
She got nothing else going for her.
Yep.
And
her face looks like she's trying to jump out of like a net or something, because it's like literally on her forehead, her neck, all of it's like she's in a horror movie or something. And excuse me, if you are working at like Starbucks or whatnot, I don't want to have to look at your nasal piercing while I'm trying to order my frappuccino. Okay, like it's just not on. Can you imagine walking into a lawyer's office and that's the receptionist?
Oh, I'd take it very seriously. You should get the hell out of that lawyer's office.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm trying to think of a job where I'd be thrilled to meet someone like that. I'm trying to, and there are probably jobs. I'm not going to discount all of them. I mean, for example, if she was the person at the tattoo parlor,
that's the only place.
Then she is a canvas for the job, right?
It's the only place. Like she would literally be a standing mannequin, living, breathing mannequin, essentially, for the tattoo artist. You know what I mean? You walk in, you're like, hey man, I'm not sure if I should go with this guy. And he's like, no, just look at my forehead. He did this amazing thing.
Snipe says her options are really limited, like bar lady. Pretty much that's it.
That's it.
She looks like a high school bathroom wall, says Elon. Some very, very funny comments. Black eyeballs, those are really, really sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just tattoo stupid on your forehead, says Wendy.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, also, let's just be honest about the fact that not every tattoo is pretty. I mean,
no,
especially these people who think they're creative and then they design their own tattoo. And even the tattoo artist is like, are you sure you want that?
Yo.
Yeah. I'm expressing myself. And it's like a spider's web across their ear or something.
There's some show on MTV that I saw some time back where like it's you and a friend and you pick the tattoo for your friend. And you're like, oh my goodness.
You only do that when
is
you're
always
drunk.
it's a recipe for disaster.
You only do that if you're drunk and you're on your first international holiday in your late teens, early 20s with your friends.
Yep.
And you dare each other. You're like, I dare you. I'll choose your tattoo. And you're like, well, I'm drunk enough. Let's go.
Yeah.
That is the only time that's ever appropriate. But
sober-minded is not
I
happening.
hope she finds a job because no one should be unemployed forever. And even though her options are limited, I hope she finds something.
Hey, man, Hollywood is always looking for the next
freak show.
Yeah. She should be cast in some sort of horror movie. She won't even need makeup.
Sure. Anyway, that's all we got time for in this hour. We'll be back in a short while. Stick around. It is 7:00 on The Real Network and the Gareth Cliff Show. Don't go anywhere. We got more on the way.
IQ Matrix LED headlamps.
Ooh, I like those.
And they are brilliant because, first of all, I have astigmatism. So that means I don't get enough light into my retinas. So night driving for me can be a real headache. And if I didn't have those lights fitted, I would have had to take a shuttle. So what makes this special is that you can actually put your brights on, high beam full on, okay? And you're not going to dazzle a single person on the road because it illuminates what's going on around at the side of the road as well.
Yeah.
So if there's oncoming traffic approaching, it immediately dims some of those little LED lights. It disables some of them.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Spain. I'm going to back Spain for what I did to you guys last time. I've got them as 2-1. A lot of people in the studio are very happy that I said that. And it's also because Italy's got a leaky defense. So I think Spain is going to run around them. And France, look, I'm backing that French attack for that 3-1.
Okay, so if you are more adventurous than us, you can obviously bet on the Proteas. You can play in the Super 8 of the Cricket World Cup. We're not going to touch that business.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to this Wednesday morning edition of the Gareth Cliff Show on the Real Network. I'm here with Jack Motlanthe, and hopefully your day is off to an awesome start.
Yes, sir. If you're listening or watching, then your day just started off the perfect way.
Well, we hope so. If we're not doing it right, you can tell us, especially if you are a subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't charge, but you can go on there and subscribe. 50,000 Rand up for grabs today at some point because we're almost there, 49,900 and something. So it could be you, who knows? And we're not going for that 50,000th one. There are a lot of factors that come into it. You'll see all the terms and conditions, but we've got some money to give away, which is always nice.
Yep.
And who doesn't want free money at this stage and in this economy, right?
Mm.
We're 60 subscribers away. Very nice, James. Thank you for checking that for us. 60,000 people, 60 people.
60,
and then we'll be at 50,000. Okay, very good. So apparently a new law was signed just the other day by the president that will affect e-hailing services like Bolt and Uber.
Okay.
Apparently the National Land Transportation Amendment Act clarifies how e-hailing businesses operate and brings them under national regulation. Apparently, the industry has been waiting for details on how the new regulations will impact pricing and drivers' earnings. They're seen as a big win for e-hailing companies in South Africa. Apparently, it's given them a lot of clarity on how these businesses can operate legally. Until now, there has been some uncertainty. The new law will help to legitimize the industry and give companies the confidence to invest in South Africa. The economic regulation of transport bill is another positive development, blah, 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 blah. But it sounds like good news all around. Give people options, right?
Yeah.
Just give people options. It is disgusting that in this country, so many people who have jobs where they just have enough money. They just have enough money to pay the transport to get to and from work.
Yeah.
That is just so unsustainable. And it's because the state insists on this huge levy on the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they use that fuel levy to pay for building of roads and everything else, because clearly they're squandering so much of our other tax. But people pay a fortune to get to and fro. If you just ask somebody at work today how many taxis they have to catch from A to B, maybe also train. Some people, it's a train, 2 taxis, then they have to walk a distance as well. It just ends up being an outrageous cost for people. So give people options.
Yep.
Of course, it's only very, very wealthy people who will be able to choose all of the options, but at least for everybody, there are choices then.
And that's more important to me than stupid things like social grants and all of this stuff.
Well,
how about you help people get to a point where they can genuinely help themselves? And doing these kind of things just helps. And it's a blanket help, like for everybody. We're so quick to put ourselves in these little pockets and whatnot and call each group or community special for whatever stupid reason. But like the truth of the matter is, when you help people get on the same level, it's up to them whether they use their initiative to get what they need to or not.
The irony is, I just think about how many Uber drivers I've spoken to who didn't have a job until they could drive a car for Uber. And obviously they're making huge money. No one is. The margins are very slim and Uber takes a big slice of that pie. But I bet Uber's given more people employment than government.
I think so too.
Because government can't make jobs, right? They can only create more of a tax burden. So if you create a government job, what you're doing is you're costing the taxpayer more money.
The guy who drove me here this morning, so he got into e-hailing using someone else's car, and he would have to pay that guy 2,000 Rand every week. And he did so for 5 years to the point whereby he bought his car. In fact, the car he drove me here in, he got 2 weeks ago.
Amazing.
Right?
Isn't that a good story?
That is an amazing story.
If you don't find that empowering, if you don't think that's a good story, you don't know what a good story is.
You really don't. Because, I mean, here's a person who made a decision to put in the work. They weren't handed anything. And he decided to put all of this stuff together. And now he's got a car. And he was telling me about his plans about getting a second car. So the car dealership that he got his car from, they told him if he doesn't skip any payments for 6 months, he can get a second vehicle. Now he's going to have an employee as well. Can you imagine?
That's great. Yeah, I met a woman last year who was driving an Uber, and I thought this is amazing, first of all, because she was driving around late at night on her own, and you never know what kind of people you're going to get asking for a lift. But she told me she's been doing this for 6 or 7 years, and she now owns 2 cars, and her son drives the one because he couldn't get a job. She drives the other one. They own the cars. They've paid them off. And she's making a tidy profit. She wants to get to 3 or 4 cars, and then she's like a kingpin, like a taxi boss.
There you go.
Which is fantastic. Now, again, I wonder if you calculated all the jobs that have come about as a result of government or government policy, of which there are a bitter few and way too many policies, and you compared that to how many jobs Uber's created, I think Uber would win. In other words, Uber's better running the economy than government. We're back to Javier Milei all of a sudden. So, all right, we can talk about cars. Maybe it's better to save those things for when George Meany's in, because he's got so much to talk about. But you had, I don't know the story at all. There's a story about 6 schizophrenic brothers.
Gareth.
And what, this is a documentary or something?
It's a documentary. Let me start off by saying, I thought my family had just enough problems and just enough happiness for us to be a healthy bunch. Okay. And then I came across this documentary. So,
oh my God.
This family, they're in Colorado. Of course, it happened in the States, but the parents got married in 1940, and they started having kids in 1945 all the way up until 1965. They had 12 kids, Gareth, in total. Sure. Same man, same woman. God bless that woman. Like, it's like madness.
You got to have some serious respect for a mom who's given birth to anything more than 3 kids.
Right?
I mean, even a mom who's given birth to 1 deserves a lot of respect. But imagine 12.
So, from 1945 until 1965, she had Donald, Jim, John, Brian, Michael, Richard, Joseph, Mark, Matthew, Peter, Margaret, and Mary. 10 boys, 2 girls.
Sure.
Now, of the 12 kids, 6 of them ended up with schizophrenia.
Ended up with?
Oh, well, were diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Okay. Schizophrenia is a very serious mental health condition. And we're not talking
serious.
about, we're not talking about someone who has too many distractions. I've got ADHD. I'm not able to concentrate. We're not talking about somebody who's anxious.
No.
These are serious conditions.
These are people who were diagnosed with this mental illness. 6 out of the 12. That's literally half of the family. Now, naturally, because of their mental illness, they all kind of scattered into different directions. But the mom, interestingly enough, tried to keep them in the house as long as possible. So the firstborn son started showing symptoms really, really early. So he was like 17, 18 years old when he started showing symptoms. And they got him a bit of treatment. He went to college. By the time he came back, like, all bets were off. At this point in time, whenever he'd get into arguments with his parents, he'd smash all the windows in the house. He'd complain about hearing voices and all of this stuff.
This family needed more drama.
Listen, and it kind of started a ripple effect, because once the firstborn son, Donald, once he started kind of, losing it, as a coping mechanism, they try to help out as much as they could, but a lot more of them started showing symptoms, and at random points in time. It's such a devastating story to watch, because right at the end, you find out that of the 12, there's 9 of them who are still alive. The youngest daughter, Mary, is taking care of her mentally ill brothers. One of them. No, yeah. Well, not in the same house, but like she keeps tabs on them and all of this stuff.
This woman is.
My goodness. And her child, unfortunately. So she's got 2 kids of her own. Her son is 22 years old, and he has anxiety and all of this stuff because he found out that 6 of his uncles had schizophrenia.
You see, I think there's such a thing as bad genes. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But this is not pure nature. I mean, pure nurture. This is nature.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds to me like if 6 people out of 12 have a really serious condition, and now in the next generation, there are signs of that happening again. It's like someone somewhere, nature is trying to just nudge you in a direction of like, yeah, you're not the one to have more kids. Stop right here. This is a good place to stop. Let the family tree just end the branch right there.
Can you like Mary's son? So Mary is the youngest of the 12 siblings, and her son was kind of like, the mom kind of wants to normalize mental illness, well, at least the conversation around it. So she exposed her kids to her brothers, and when they saw just how unhinged some of them could be in their manic moments, the kids have been freaking out ever since. Like, I hope that is not my reality. The son is just waiting to turn 26 because apparently that's the cutoff for when schizophrenia can actually take over your life, essentially.
I wouldn't know what to do in that situation.
I wouldn't know either.
I feel very sorry for them, but at the same time, I don't know why they make documentaries about people like this, because they're trying to, I suppose, normalize stuff, but it's not normal.
This
is very bad.
It is absolutely
I don't
horrible.
see a happy story coming from this.
No, not at all. I mean, right at the end of so it's a 4-part documentary. Right at the end of it, they point out that this family was the perfect test subjects in order to identify the gene, to figure out whether or not schizophrenia could be a part of your future or not. But I mean, having to deal with all of that stuff. The father at some point had a stroke.
Oh my God.
So this woman
doesn't
had
get any better.
It is hectic.
All right. So
hectic.
Another thing. It's like, just be grateful for you and your problems. Like you were saying at the very beginning of this, you're like, you look at your family and you go, oh, we've got just the right amount of trouble and the right amount of happiness.
Oh,
there's so much that could go wrong. There's so much bad shit out there. Just like, count your blessings and count your problems and be grateful for them.
Listen,
you wouldn't want other people's problems.
Like, it's the name of the documentary, by the way, is 6 Schizophrenic Brothers, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Kind of tells you on the box what it's all about. Hey?
Yeah. And when I saw the title, I thought, okay, this might be interesting. But my word, it is insane, and I don't use that word lightly. It is crazy.
I wouldn't watch this. I thank you for telling me about it, because otherwise I'd never have known. But I wouldn't watch this. I said it the other day, and I really mean this. Like, I'm not taking in stuff that's going to make me feel bad. I don't even have emotional capacity for the people I do care about in my life. I struggle to be in the feelings the whole time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what most people are most of the time. If I'm now expected to also have feelings, or I'm made to care by a documentary, which is clearly very emotive, I'm made to care about some family I'll never meet with all of their problems. I don't know why people do this to themselves. I'm glad you watched it, so you warned me against watching it, but I would not be, wild horses could not drag me to watch this documentary. I hate it. It's like watching those crime and investigation things, serial killer stuff. I don't want to know. It's not in my life, and I don't want to know. I don't need it. Thank you. I'm happy to watch dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I will watch people doing dumb shit on TikTok or on Instagram or wherever. I don't have TikTok, Instagram, but wherever else. And then that'll fill my quotient for entertainment. You are very brave, and many people who watch these things are brave enough to watch them. I'm not interested.
You know
Sorry.
what? For whatever reason, I've learned how to separate what I'm watching and my emotions. So, like, if it pops up on the screen, to me, it's no different to cartoons. Like, you'd be like, okay, I feel something, but like, it doesn't sit with me. I just keep it moving. And some of these stories are really enlightening, man. Like, you actually realize that human beings are a lot more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. More often than not, you don't know what you'd be willing to live with up until you don't have a choice. And, you know, some of these stories shed light on just how many silver linings there are.
Really, Richard says, I guess that phrase "first child is like pancakes." You throw it away when you decide I'm no good at making pancakes after 6, 12. Yeah. I always wonder, because it seems to me like, there's this another documentary that I remember from ages ago that I found. It was like dark humor more than it was something I needed to feel sorry for. It's this really inbred family, and I think they're in Appalachia in America. It's this. They're called I can't remember their surname now.
Is this the family with the one kid that barks instead of talking? They
bark, and they're really, really inbred. And I remember watching this thing, and the guy goes the whole time, and it was like, if you just want to laugh and you don't have to get involved, like you said, you can separate the feelings.
Yeah.
Then it's quite interesting to watch. But at the same time, I look at this stuff, and I just think what happened to entertainment? Like, we have good stories, There are the classics, and somebody said, I loved it the other day. Someone told me that they watched, I think it was Sense and Sensibility or Little Women, or one of those 18th century women's authors, Jane Eyre or one of the Brontes. There were so many of them, 3 of them. And I thought those are great stories. But if you go back even further, there are the classics. Like, you've got the amazing stories that were written in the Iliad by Homer, the Odyssey, the stories from ancient Greece and Rome that are just magnificent. And people have their own stories now. They're creating stories. Stories from our own backyards, which are not all about these really dark parts of humanity. I think we can do better than this. Like, what about heroes? What about people who've done incredible and brave things?
I think
there are lots of good stories. We don't have to go and find inbred families and 6 schizophrenic fucking brothers.
Do you know? I think it's
enough.
It's an information overload. With all the movies that have been produced, all of the series and all of this stuff, we've seen heroes a bit too much, I think. So the more broken people are, people gravitate towards that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you maybe. And it makes people feel better.
Yeah.
They watch that stuff and they go, oh, I may be bad, but I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
So it makes them feel a bit better about themselves. You are probably on the money here. Bitcoin Butt says, back in the day, we'd go to the circus to see a child bark. Puppy boy. Now it's common. Gays even like them. Well, that's the furries. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole
The Whitakers. That's their surname. Quite right. Thank you, Raven. The Whitakers. That's the surname of the family in Appalachia who have these. I mean, it's bad. So what happened was 2 brothers, their children got married. And then from there on, they just kept it in the family. And they live, I mean, just the conditions these people live in, it's just disgusting. They're all wearing dirty clothes, and they're like, it's very, very depressing, even if it's funny in the beginning, because you watch it and you can't believe what you're watching.
Right.
It's like it's a freak show. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to that woman with the tattoos all over her face earlier, because that other lady said keep it in the circus. But I think we've taken the freak shows and we've just put them center stage. So now the freak shows, which used to be on the fringes, are now getting the spotlight. And I'm not so sure that we want to see that in living, vivid color. It's
we don't.
Bit terrifying, actually. What do you think about Queen Elizabeth and Philip being first and second? They weren't first, they were second cousins, but it's still close. And
it is.
That's why Charles's eyes are close. Shame. Poor old Charles. I saw he's busy entertaining the Japanese emperor and empress at the moment. There was a big dinner at Buckingham Palace last night for the king and the queen and the emperor and the empress.
Some people just have all the luck, man.
In 2024, there are still kings and emperors dining with each other with gold cutlery and,
forget the fact that for hundreds of years, there were revolutions trying to get rid of all of those emperors and queens and shit. It's crazy.
So you got the Whitakers, and the Windsors. Take your pick.
Yep.
All right. So there's a couple of interesting stories going on. There's a couple of comments here that we must refer to. So I basically decided to save some people some time. You know, in the interest of saving time, I'm always about efficiency. I was like, here are a couple of things that if you are a friend of mine on social media, or if you follow me on social media, this will help you to determine whether that's still a worthwhile endeavor for you and for me, possibly.
Right.
So I got a list, okay? So a quick guide to unfriending me. First of all, if you post pro-Hamas lies and propaganda, I'll be disappointed, but life is too short to argue with terrorists, so maybe you should just leave so that I don't have to cancel you. If you tell me that you were pro-lockdown and pro-vax back in 2020, but that you still maintain those positions now, despite even the drug companies admitting that their vaccines might have been very dangerous, but certainly didn't stop transmission or any of the other effects that they promised, then you're very stupid and I can't be friends with you anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take that one as well.
Number three,
I'll definitely take
number
that
three,
one.
if you post pictures or videos of animal abuse, even if you're trying to help, I don't want to see that stuff. It's like the crime and investigation shit. There's enough going on in the world. I don't need to be upset by this. I know that there are shitty people doing horrible things to people and animals, but I don't want to see it. There used to be this general idea that, you know, snuff films where people kill people shouldn't be seen. Now, you could go into your feed on something as urbane as Instagram, and you will see people being hit by cars. I don't want to see that stuff, and I certainly don't want to see animals being abused. So I'm out if that's what you're into. Number 4, ask for money. If you ask for money, I don't want to hear from you. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, these are not for panhandling. Stop asking people you don't know for money. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is
really.
actually.
Number 5, if you tell me that you think Joe Biden is perfectly capable of running the US for another 4 years, you and he need to be put in a nursing home.
Like with immediate effect, like immediately. Yesterday, immediately.
There was a new video that came out yesterday, and I know that, you know, the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, is trying to tell people that there's this thing called, what does she call it? Cheap fakes. So it's not deep fakes. It's not actually fake footage. But she's like, oh, it's out of context, and you're cutting clips that make the president look bad. They showed a video yesterday of Joe Biden. Again, I can't help it. This stuff is coming up on my feed. And I've tried to eliminate the bullshit, but it's very hard.
Yeah.
There's a video of him getting into a car. Just getting into a car, right? It takes him 2 minutes to get into the car. That's very bad. And okay, so that's another one that instantly is like, also, please, number 6, can we stop comparing everyone to Hitler? Like, Hitler was really bad and probably way worse than anyone that you're comparing him with. Just because you don't have any other historical reference points, because you only know Hitler, let's stop watering that down. I mean, Hitler was pretty goddamned awful.
Yep.
And if you think that your school guidance counselor was mean to you once, so they're just like Hitler, I can't take you seriously. You need to be taken off my feed.
No, it's the over exaggeration, the hyperbole, and what ultimately happens is that those kind of terms get watered down to the point whereby it becomes fodder and no one gives it its right due.
Yeah.
Like that guy was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Let's stop comparing him to.
Please,
like
don't
don't
compare anyone. Just try not to compare anyone to Hitler. It's a very bad idea. You're going to come up looking stupid yourself.
There's tons of bad people. Pick one.
Please don't have green or blue or purple hair. I can't be friends with you if you do, because that's the sign. Almost all the time, I've met maybe a couple of people who break the rule, but almost all of them severe mental illness. You need a psychiatrist, not a Facebook friend. Number 8, and this is a big one. It might not seem serious, but it is. If you use your wedding picture as a profile picture, but you got married more than 6 months ago, What you're really admitting is that was the best that you've ever looked, and that you've been downhill since then. And if you've been downhill for like 8 years and you still got your wedding pic from 8 years ago, it's embarrassing.
But Gareth, it was the happiest day of my life.
I know, but you can still have it in your album. But to have it as your profile picture, especially on things like LinkedIn, okay? Like a lot of these are social media apps, so I'll forgive you a little bit more. But if you're posting any of this stuff on LinkedIn, that's embarrassing beyond belief, because now you're humiliating yourself in the business world as well.
Yep.
Right. Also, number 9, this might seem unkind, but don't be sad, because nobody cares. And this is not the place to look for therapy or for support.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be sad if you want to have friends like Jack and I on social media.
And
just don't be sad.
Like,
stop.
Just so you know, you're not being clever either. Like, you know how some girls break up with someone and they want to let the whole world know that they are doing just fine. But in the meantime, we can see the 15 posts in 1 hour proving that you're not fine.
No, you're not. Exactly.
I'm going into my soft girl era. No, you're going into your lonely, sad girl era. That's what's going on. And you just don't want to admit it. Okay.
Oh, boy. All right. So I kept it to around 10.
Yeah.
The last one is, you don't have to explain that you are white or black or lesbian or disabled or anything that we can see from the picture. Because we, believe it or not, we can tell from the picture. You know, things like, I'm a black lesbian. Well, I can see that.
I could pick it up.
I can see that from your picture and the hardware shoes that you're wearing in the picture. So we can all tell that. And if you think that your race or your sexuality or your opinion on something is the most interesting thing about you, there's probably not that much interesting stuff about you. So let's just save each other a lot of time and not be friends.
I think, you know, that's why people treat social media as an actual place, because their actual lives are rather dull.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've heard people say things like, yo, the internet is such a mean place.
No.
Like, no.
It's not.
It's not. No, it's not. Like you can't feed the internet bullshit and then expect no bullshit to come in your direction. Like what are we doing?
Like anything, it's what you make it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're just looking for the wrong thing in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You know, let's just be sensible about this. So if any of that made you very unhappy, I'm terribly sorry. But what can I say? Again, efficiency is king.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So let's turn our attention now to something else, which I think will help us get our efficiency right. We try to bring interesting people into the studio. Today is no different to all the other days where we bring interesting people in. And this guy especially is going to help us to figure out how the unhealthy habits of leaders contribute to their poor performance. And we're going to have an exploration with him of the neuroscience of leadership, as well as how politicians in particular reduce their capacity to lead with destructive personal cultures. And maybe this will ring a bell or two for those of us who are feeling maybe we could do better as well. His name is Veli Ndaba. He was born in Soweto, in Mdeni to be specific. He's got a Bachelor of Science degree in Management Science. He's got a National Diploma in Mechanical Engineering and a Diploma in Project Management. He does life coaching, neuro-linguistic programming, and he's a thought leader and pioneer of a leadership high-performance tool called the Veli Ndaba NeuroEngineering Leadership Effect. Now, if that doesn't interest you, then I don't know what will, because that sounds pretty fascinating to me. Veli, it's nice to have you here.
Hey, great. It's nice to be here, Gareth. Thank you so
nice
much.
to see you. This is a fascinating overlap of two areas most people would not associate with each other.
Yeah.
Like the idea of mechanical engineering at one point, and then like social and psychological stuff on the other, neuro-linguistic programming, which I think everybody accepts now as a pretty tried and tested way of changing bad behavior.
Absolutely. I think what we tend to do is that we create binary conditions in life. It's either this or that.
Yeah.
So we've got to find a way in terms of how we can bridge these things together, because it doesn't always work like that if you either have this or that. So why can't you have both? So for me, I think it's about that, because you always ask this question, you're an engineer, but how did you get into this? And I think it's about the fascination that I have.
So let's just start off with neurolinguistic programming and this idea that you've got this neuroengineering leadership effect.
Yes.
So what is NLP for people who don't know?
NLP means neuro-linguistic programming. It's basically, it's all about understanding how the brain works and in terms of the programs that we get to be, adapted to. Because, like, as you live, you get to learn different things, like, through other people.
Mm-hmm.
And they become a way of life for you. So that's something. For an example, if you end up being scared of snakes, no one was just born scared.
Yeah.
But it's something that you learned, as you grow up, based on what you experienced and what you saw.
Right.
Like I'll normally ask people, especially when I deal with leaders, to say, how do you eat an apple? People say, no, I take it out and I clean it and I cut it, or others I bite it. And I say, but is there any curriculum that where that stuff was covered? How did you learn that? Someone said, no, because people will give you different things. This is how I eat it. And I said, but what got you to eat an apple like that? And people say, no. But in retrospect, they realize that, that's how they watch others eating it. And
by
I say,
observation.
So that's what we call monkey see, monkey do. So there are many things in our brains. We've got something called mirror neurons. Things that we learn better by observing people.
Right.
Do things. And then we end up...
Especially when you're a kid, your parents, right?
Absolutely.
That's the first place. I was monkey see, monkey do with my parents for... probably up to at least age 4 or 5 before I started having any other inputs.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly happened. It helps you to adapt, and it helps you to to understand how life happens around you, so that you can be able to live with other people. So it unfortunately, what tends to happen is that we grow up with that attitude or with that mentality that it's about monkey see, monkey do. We never question these beliefs. And like that one of an apple, and I say, but what if maybe they say, do you eat the core and the seeds? And they say, no, I don't eat that. I say, why not? No, this is not the right thing to do. It's very, it's not a good thing to do. And I say, why not? I said, what if the core of an apple and the seeds are the most interesting part and nutritional part of the apple? They look at me and I say, so we never question things. And because if I had this, like empirical evidence that proves that, you wouldn't say to me, no, I'm wrong. So because we never challenge that, you never question that. So that's trying to say to people, let's try to wake up. Let's try to question things. So with neuroscience and NLP, for an example, is trying to demystify some myths that we all have and that we grew up hearing. For an example, that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And that as human beings, we only use about 10% of our brain capacity, which is just false.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People say that, and it's a trope. It's like that just gets repeated often enough, and everybody starts believing it, right?
And to say that, like one of my quotes, like Gareth as well, I say, in the absence of evidence, everything becomes a truth. So it comes back to that. In the absence of evidence, everything becomes the truth.
So it seems to me that there are so many people who are just operating on that programming that was put into them when they were a kid. They don't ever deviate from it, so they don't improve necessarily. New evidence comes up, new information. They don't go with it and change their programming for the better. And they're almost just existing. They repeat the same patterns. They do the same, and then they complain that their life is horrible.
Yeah,
and that's a problem you can solve. And NLP is one of the ways of doing that. There are lots of people who believe in other methods. There are tons of things that we've discussed on this show that you can do to improve your life. And I suppose it all starts with that, I want to make a change, attitude change, making sure that you do things differently, break old patterns. But that's easier said than done, right, Veli?
Very true. No two people are exactly the same. And there's a reason why I had to delve into this subject of neuroscience in particular, because neuroscience is just above NLP. Because coming from an engineering background, I was very fascinated about understanding things from the basics. From first principles. That's something that we get to be taught. Understand things as an engineer. You can't just hope that this thing is going to work. There must be some fundamental principles that are informing and that are actually driving this thing to work. You can't just hope for the car to work. It's based on the principles and it's based on the mechanics, that drives this car to do what it does. So it's the same thing with human beings as well. Unfortunately, but when you look at neuroscience, for an example, it's looking at how the brain works. Neuroscience is a study that looks at the the nervous system of a human being, but with the main focus on the brain. So in terms of what makes us do what we do, it brings in the scientific evidence to human behavior. Because many people just say, oh, this is how we do things, but why do we really do that? And we look at things like philosophy and evolution. How did we evolve as a human species from our prehistoric ancestors? Because the brain is all about survival. It's about safety. It's about energy saving, and it's about thinking. Thinking normally comes at the bottom of this pyramid. The first thing is survival. So if I don't feel safe, I lose everything. It means I'm not going to focus. If I were to say
that's interesting, because there are many people, especially in this country, who are struggling to survive. So if you're in survival mode, the chances are you're not going to be able to think.
You're not.
It's even if you want to, and you're a person who believes in the force of will, and you're able to master yourself in whatever way, shape, or form, if you are just in survival mode, you're not going to be thinking, which is why so many people make such terrible mistakes, because they're just trying to survive and they can't switch that part of their brain off, because that's at the center of it, right? That's the primitive, the lizard brain.
Yes.
And that's the part that's keeping them alive.
And that's exactly that, Gareth, because when you look at the brain normally it's simplified into three parts, or there are three different parts of the brain. The first one is the thinking brain. The second one is an emotional brain. And then the third one is the survival brain that you referred to as a lizard brain. So that's the one that keeps us, alive. Right now, the heart is beating. You're not consciously controlling it. Right now, you're digesting the food. You're not consciously controlling it. Right now, the blood is beautifully regulated, and you're not consciously controlling that. That's the part of the brain that is controlling that. It's the survival brain, and which is the one that started off, at the beginning of time. And then the second one became the emotional brain. That's the one now that ensures that you feel emotions, you experience anger, you experience, things like excitement and happiness. So we all feel, and as mammals, we are the ones that are highly evolved in terms of that brain, because that's why we can take care of our kids until they are 50 or until they are 60. I know other kids who are still being taken care of at the age of 60.
Giraffes don't do that.
Giraffes don't do that. But as humans, we are the ones who are doing that. That tells you how sensitive we are and how close we are in terms of emotions, as human beings. And then the third one is the thinking brain. I'm sure you've heard of this part of the brain that is called the prefrontal cortex. That's the one that does the executive functions of the brain. This is the CEO of the brain. That's where you do planning. You do things like strategizing.
But unlike a CEO, it gets overruled by those emotional and lizard brains.
I was coming to that because the thinking brain, when you look, the brain evolved from, back to front. So it means emotional brain is the big brother. Right? And then the thinking brain is the baby, of the family. So it gets bullied easily, because that's why emotional brain is the one that takes over, because it just says, okay, you're a lighty, you're small, just take a back seat.
Right.
I'm gonna take care of this one. Because why? It's based on survival. Because if our prehistoric ancestors could not survive, we wouldn't be here. So emotions, therefore, they tend to take over, because they are also, the emotional brain is about 100 times faster than the thinking brain.
Wow.
The thinking brain is such an amazing, part of the brain that does all the, the beautiful things. It thinks about tomorrow, but the emotional brain is in the here and now. But it's much faster, it's much stronger. It's a bully of the family. So,
which is why half of the time we are rendered speechless, because our prefrontal cortex still needs to develop a little bit more to match up with its older brother.
Yeah, and it will never do that. That's why it is even said that you are only rendered an adult when you're 21. But it doesn't always work like that. Other people never get to do that, because it doesn't just mature with age only. It matures based on experiences that you have or that you go through.
How do you manage then? Because I'm sure there are loads of people listening and watching now who are thinking, yeah, that's me. Sometimes my emotions get the better of me. Sometimes I'm in survival mode. I can't think. I'm just overwhelmed. It's too much to deal with. How can people gain control? How can they become the CEO then of their own brain and let the thinking brain help them make better decisions, because almost always it does.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in thinking mode and your emotions are regulated and you're not in survival, then you probably will make more sensible, rational, calculated, thoughtful decisions, and you won't be stuck fighting with people or, arguing over a piece of food or something that's completely stupid that all other animals do.
Yeah.
How do we get to that point? Because there's no one who's mastered this in completion, right?
Absolutely. It's a journey. I mean, that's why I talk a lot about, when you talk about things like emotional intelligence, that's being emotional in an intelligent way. So it means that what happens between these three brains, for an example, I use this analogy. When you look at the thinking brain, it uses about, if you look at in terms of when you look at, energy, it uses a lot of energy.
Right.
And then the emotional brain, it uses less energy. Why?
Right.
Because most of the things that you do are already subconsciously driven. They are already stored in the subconscious mind. There's part of the brain that we talk about. It's called basal ganglia. That's the one that drives all the emotions, all the habits. Once you have done something a couple of times, it says, okay, now I've got this thing figured out. Give it to me. Don't think about it anymore. That's when we become we get into autopilot.
Right.
So it means we get into autopilot because the brain says, I only have certain amount of energy. I only have so much, cognitive resources in me. I only have so much glucose. I only have so much oxygen. So I don't have all the time to think, and I cannot. So remember, the second part of the brain is about energy saving.
Right.
So when it saves energy, it
Makes
ticks the
sense.
box. And so that's why people become lazy, because the brain says, no. Why do it now? Why think about that? That's why you avoid new things. Why? Because they challenge us to think. And thinking is the most difficult thing there is. That's why Henry Ford was saying, thinking is the most difficult thing there is. That's why most people don't think. It didn't have the science to back that one up with, but when you look at it, it's because now science has shown us that the thinking brain is quite costly in terms of energy. So coming back to your question, I think that one, Gareth, to say, how do we train that? It becomes an issue of self-awareness. That's what I teach about. That's what I talk about as well, because when you understand how the brain works, because people just think that the brain is just one solid thing. It's not. It's got different components. It's got different departments, but they work together seamlessly. But until you understand that they are different, then you'll not be able to control that. So to make sure that you are not emotionally driven all the time, it's about being able to understand that the brain evolved to keep us safe. But now the safety that we're talking about, it was physical safety. But now most of the safety we're talking about is not physical. It's emotional and it's social. So it's not something that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But the brain has mastered that. So when you take a deep breath, for an example, when someone irritates you, it's not going to kill you. You just take a deep breath. It's about managing your emotions. And so that awareness is something that's important. But when someone upsets you, that animal instinct, comes out and you want to snap off their heads. So self-awareness comes into being there.
So how do you incorporate this into your work? Because I think leadership, we need leaders who are able to master themselves.
Yes.
We need leaders who are self-aware. And I don't see a lot of that. I see a lot of emotion, that middle brain, that second brain, as you call it. I see a lot of survival talk. I see a lot of appealing to other people's emotional brains rather than the sensible stuff. We were talking about this earlier, this president of Argentina who's just shooting the lights out and changing the economy there and making people's lives practically better.
Yes.
Just by not being stupid. And I said to Jack, well, this just shows you how dumb the other leaders in the world are, because so many of them are caught in that area between the first and second brain, and they're not even getting to the third.
Our education system, unfortunately, somehow it seems to be designed in a very bad way, even our society as well. Because when things are made, to be, or when they are constructed in a way that they are not able to take us from this issue of worrying about safety and focus on what matters most, we'll never be able to come out of that. Like another example that I use, I say, if I say in this room here and I say, there's a lot of money here, if you get in here, you can get yourself maybe 5 million, rands. And then you will be so excited. And then the second part, and I said, anyway, there's a trick. And I say, but there's a snake in there as well somewhere. So if you are able to, to go past that snake, then you can have that money. Where is your focus going to be?
On the snake.
It's going to be why it proves once again that our brain is focusing on survival. It's not, so whatever it is, I mean, if a leader, for example, gets into a room and says, guys, we need to do this. And if you achieve this, I'm going to give you so much money. You're going to get this. And he says, but if it doesn't happen, heads are going to roll. Now,
Yes.
where is
The
the
only
focus
part
going to
pe-
be?
Only part people hear is heads are going to roll.
Exactly that. So leaders need to be taught. So that's what I do, to teach leaders to understand how human brains work. Because if you understand how the human brain works, how it processes information, because most of us, we have not been taught about that. I mean, even for me, it came out, the last 10 years to get to understand that. So that's the reason why I said, this information is not available. Hence, I started writing a book around that to say, how do you really help leaders? Yes, this is the book here. How do you really help leaders to lead effectively? Because when you talk about this leadership is not just like, because most people are promoted because of their technical skills.
Yeah.
You are a good accountant, you're a good engineer,
Yeah.
then they promote you.
We even see it now. We see it with people online saying, oh, this one's got a matric, this one's got this degree, that degree. Those things are not the qualifications we need.
Absolutely.
We need people who can think and also who have a moral backbone.
Yeah.
I don't just want people who can prove they're skilled in a specific technical respect.
Unfortunately, what happens, Gareth, in terms of that, school has created this entitlement mindset where we think that because I have a degree, then I'm qualified for that.
Yeah.
And then you get people, I deal with people who've got master's degrees, people who are so highly educated.
Right.
But when you talk with them when it comes to issues of emotions, they are just so cold and they are just not there. And they are not able to engage the thinking brain. Remember, right now, we're in this economy that is called, we call it, it's knowledge economy. Now, knowledge economy means that we hire people based on their skills and based on their knowledge. But when you're going to bring in someone who is highly educated, someone who can think outside the box, but you hire them to put them inside the box, because that's what happens. We don't give them space. We hire people to come and do beautiful things. But when they get in there, you say, no, I'm the boss here. And someone is highly qualified, they can do something, and bring in new ideas. But you've got leaders who are saying, no, but I'm the boss here. They don't want someone who's going to outshine them. That's where leadership fails, because we bring in people. What's the use of saying, I want someone with a master's degree, and yet you don't give them space to do what they have been taught to do and what they can do. That's why, therefore, you've got people who are, then politics starts coming in.
Yeah. Well,
and people getting so much stress because you end up not doing what you're supposed to do, but you end up conforming.
That's it. I saw a great clip yesterday. I'm not going to say who it was, because if you mention some people's name in business, then everybody else has the emotional response of, I like them or I don't like them.
Yes.
So everything they say is true and great, or nothing they say is true or useful. So I saw this brilliant clip. The guy says, it is really important that leaders in companies allow people to fail.
Yes.
In other words, to try things, to experiment, to come up with ingenious new ways of doing stuff. And you've got to be prepared to bear the cost of that if you're a leader.
Yeah.
Because if you have the opposite, that you bring people in and then you tell them not to make mistakes, all they're going to do is try to avoid those mistakes. You'll get nothing good out of them.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much in business in this country that's about people who are terrified to make a mistake. So they rather do nothing.
Absolutely. And that is based on how capitalistic we are. As the world. Everyone is focusing on bottom line. It's very unfortunate that we want to do beautiful things, but people don't want to lose money. It's all about bottom line. We don't care about people. We don't care about the well-being of people.
There has to be some sort of a middle ground.
To stand up for capitalism for a second, capitalism is also the promise that if you come up with a good idea, you'll make lots of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing this altruistically. No one's standing out there going, well, I want to solve people's problems. They're like, if I manage to solve people's problems, I might make a lot of cash.
There has to be a meeting of the mind
them.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And the question is, how confident is the leader? Because it comes back to that. And that's one thing that I talk about. Many things are lost. They hinge around the confidence level of a leader. If a leader has a low level of confidence, they're not going to give up space because they are focusing about losing their jobs. If someone makes a mistake, my head is gonna be chopped off. So it comes back to that. That's the reason why when you look at, when you look at companies, leaders who come in there, everything that they talk about is about profits. But when it comes to people development and looking at the well-being of people, it becomes like the last thing, in the line. They say, even if you talk to people, that's why they are so quick to say, but how much money is this thing going to make us? And when you say, but it's going to develop your people, and like when you look at it in long term, it's going to have huge spin-offs. And they don't look at that. They want to see the results now and right away.
The thing is, like with life in modern society, it does not incentivize long, hard work. What has become the carrot that is dangled in front of everyone is notoriety and fame, and you don't have to do too much in order for you to get there. Those kind of things are things that can be unlearned, right? Or is the pressure a bit too much on?
The pressure is there, but those things can be unlearned. Remember, the brain is such an amazing organ. It can learn and it can unlearn things. The problem is the reinforcements that we are seeing. Look at social media. People are just posting all these things. If you just do Forex, you don't have to work hard. Look at me, I'm driving a Lamborghini. Look at me, look at the mansion that I have. And now the young ones don't know better. All they're looking at, these things are being reinforced because they're spending too much time on social media as well. And they are saying, no, they say, why work hard if I can? No, school is not important. Just go and do this. And they grow up hearing these things. And unfortunately, it's got a very huge impact on how people think and how our youth actually grows up. Even now, even elders, they end up adopting that. They don't want to work hard anymore. They just sit there and expect, more for less or with less.
The incentives have lost. They're gone. There's not enough people that are products of genuine hard work that are championing that understanding at this point in time. Because whether we like it or not, Steve Jobs said it. People don't know what they want until you give it to them, right?
That's very true.
Most of the time, what people want and how they get it are very different conversations. Like they know I want a Lamborghini, but how to get there is, as you said, Forex, social media and whatnot, all of these shortcuts.
And it's very sad because even now, when I remember, during our days as well, when you qualified and you had to go after varsity days, you go and work in a company, you were exposed. You realize that you knew nothing because you'll be giving someone, like Gareth said, rightfully, to say you're giving someone who has matric. And he will show you that you know nothing. The theory, the degree that you have means nothing. You have to be taught from scratch because you realize that what you were taught, it's basically like devoid of the truth. There's still a lot that you need to learn as a person. It comes back to the culture once again.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to find out, is that the survival brain at work? Because that imposter syndrome thing that people have, just like, okay, but is it because we try to protect ourselves from harm? Like we don't want to be seen as less than?
The issue of not wanting to feel less than, it's actually part of as human beings.
That's the second one.
It's the second brain, but as part of as human beings, we are very hierarchical in nature. Someone wants to be at the top, no one wants to be at the bottom. That's why even when you look at people on social media, they will even post like, look at my food. Look at what I'm eating. Look at, they call it the situation right now. When you look at that, it comes back to this issue that no one wants to be known as less than. People want to pitch themselves at the top to say, no, also I've got something in me. And that has got an impact as well in how we show up because people want to, to be relevant, even on things that don't really make sense. So the issue of not wanting to feel less than, it comes back to this issue of social threat. Because when you feel like you don't belong or you are not seen as someone who is happening, then it means you are less than. No one will care about you.
But it's the second brain because it's a feeling.
Yes.
And it's the first brain because if you feel less than, it's a threat and therefore you feel unsafe.
Yes.
But you're not getting to the third brain.
You're not.
So Usually when you're feeling like that, you need to take a step back or take that deep breath that you mentioned. I mean, this works for me. I'm human like anyone else. I sometimes feel that way. I sometimes feel unsafe or threatened by something that isn't really a threat, but you have to stop yourself and go, let's just think about this, clear the feelings out of the way and go, oh, actually, to react like that would be very bad. It would put me in a worse position. So let me reconsider. But I mean, I don't always get it right. Nobody does always, but you've got to do that right.
And here's the thing, Gareth, that's very important that we need to understand about the brain. We are carrying an ancient brain in a technological world. So the world is highly technological. It's growing at an exponential rate.
Yes.
And yet the brain is almost linear. I mean, scientists have shown that it takes almost 1 million years to change the brain, to adapt to what is happening. But when you look at how the world is actually changing and how things are evolving, the brain is not catching up. So the brain is still processing the information the same way it did 1 million years ago. And that's the reason why we cannot catch up. So if you're not, because now people even talk about things like multitasking. There's nothing like that. Multitasking does not happen. I mean, like, people are just giving it, that in science we call that task switching. Because each and every task that you are doing or you are performing has got its own path. We call it neurological pathway.
That's interesting. So you do believe, and we are running out of time, but I think you've just hit on a fascinating thing. It's like, do you think that some people are just better pretending that they can multitask? Or do you think that there are people who are genuinely able to have a couple of things going on and they can do those task switchings very quickly?
The question is, when you're talking about multitasking, we need to firstly understand what we're talking about. Normally, when you're talking about tasks that are cognitively involved, that require you to think, you cannot. The brain only has so much. You can. The brain operates in series, not in parallel. You can only perform one thing at the time. Right. You can't do things equally well. So what happens with the so-called multitasking? It compromises quality. It compromises the duration of a task. Something that you could have done in an hour can take you 3 to 4 hours because you are switching tasks. So each time you move out of this path and do something else, when you come back, you need to reorient yourself and say, oh, by the way, where was I? Start to think about, by that time, you're losing time, you're losing, sort of like you compromise quality. So understanding how the brain works is such an important thing that we've never heard. I mean, it's something discussed at universities and that. So that's the reason why, therefore, I wrote this book, The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership, because effective leadership is something that does not start only with leading other people. It starts with yourself, managing your emotions, managing your own ideas, managing your own thinking, and managing your own dreams. Because at the end of the day, you can't just be a somnambulist or someone who is a sleepwalker. No, you've got to wake up.
That's very powerful stuff. What you just said now is probably going to hit home for a lot of people. You can't be expected to lead and to manage other people if you can't manage yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. Because why? Leadership is about influence. When I look at you, Gareth, doing what you do, and I say to myself, oh my goodness, I wish I can be like Gareth. So when you give me an idea or when you give me an advice, I'm going to listen to you. That's going to create something in the brain that is called brain coupling. Because you do something that I believe in, something that I love. So when you talk to me or you talk with me, I'm going to listen to you with so much intense focus and attention because you make sense to me. Then I'm going to listen to you. That's where the politicians are taking advantage of people because you talk about things that you know that people want. And then people are going to listen to you. So you influence people in a bad way and people end up just following because you seem to be talking about something that they believe in.
I love this. I mean, I could talk to you for hours because I think this is fascinating. We I'm sorry we spent any time about the on the politicians at all because we could have done without them. But for so many people who are listening to you, there's so many home truths that are hitting home and striking a chord now. I think it's great. Your book is called
the neuroscience of effective leadership.
There it is.
So
Jack's holding it up.
this is about
Sorry.
because as Veli Ndaba, the neuroengineer, which is the brain engineer, I'm all about transforming minds from mental darkness to mental light.
I love
It's
that.
about enlightening
Beautiful.
minds. It's about and showing them that I normally carry my my brain model with me just to take them
Well,
through how the
it's
brain
there, I
works.
think, in the front.
Yes, as
Yeah.
well. You've got.
But I
that.
love this. So Veli, this is great, and you're a very positive
great.
guy. You believe that we all have the tools also to be able to start making positive changes in our own lives and getting ourselves right, so we can manage other people and have a positive effect on the world. I love that. I think it's the perfect message to end on this Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to spend time with us.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
this was
much.
very
Gareth.
interesting.
Pleasure to meet
it was
you.
Such, it's same here. I mean, really, it was so exciting, and I think people can learn to understand that whatever that was given to them or what they learned at the beginning, they can unlearn it. So it's a process. The brain has got is plastic-like in nature. It can always evolve and change in structure and function based on how you use it.
I love
Thank
this.
you very
Louis
much.
says in the comments, loving the show this morning, guys. Incredibly insightful. So many so-called leaders that I've dealt with in the past should listen to what Veli has to say.
Yes, sir.
Spot on,
Thank you.
Louis. Veli, thank you. Jack, always good to spend time with you on a Wednesday morning.
Yes,
and
sir.
thank you for joining us. Have we passed the 50,000? Only 50
50 to
people, and then we're at 50,000 subscribers this
Yeah.
morning. So it's very exciting. 50 grand in cash. Talk about motivation and incentive.
Yeah.
You know that room full of money that Veli was talking about? Well, it could be yours.
Mhm.
Get on there and get your friends, family, and everyone else you know to subscribe and get involved, because this
Yeah.
is the place you get pearls of wisdom like Veli was dropping this morning. Don't cost your wisdom at swine.
Absolutely, I
Right?
love
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
love
that's it.
that. You
You don't
know,
wanna
because
waste
they
it
will
on swine.
trample on it. You know?
Nobody who's joining
Yeah.
us every morning is swine.
Mhm.
I mean, some of them behave like that sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
but we do too.
It's
All right,
okay.
everybody, have a happy day. We will see you on Friday.